Hey Internet, it's RJ. Welcome back. Thanks for tuning into the show today. Now today is Sunday, so you know what that means. We're going around the net with all the news you can use in the week that was in credit and finance. And on the docket for today, we have a wide range of items. We have Citi tweaking some of their transfer ratios. We have BILT Rewards adding a new transfer partner plus a new way to cash out entirely. And of course, we have the Capital One acquisition of Discover. Looks like it's finally got the green light, so we'll talk about what it means, a little bit of speculation and more to close. So of course, if any of that sounds interesting to you, go ahead, press the subscribe button and let's get to work. Now we will start out in the land of Citi, who has some changes to their transfer points, thank you points, specifically moving to transfer partner. So there are two major changes. There are two changes here. How major they are is kind of up to you. I don't think they're that major. It's probably why it's the leadoff story. But anyways, let's take a look at this. So the first one was an email sent out to folks, and this involves Emirates Airlines. So there's a bunch of preamble up top, but really this affects the Strata Premier, which is their only current active travel card you can sign up for. It goes into effect July 27th. Essentially what they're saying is currently you can move 1,000 thank you points to Emirates and you'll get 1,000 Emirates Skyward miles, which is standard. Now on July 27th, that is decreasing. 1,000 thank you or rewards points are now transferable for 800 Emirates Skyward miles, which is not as good as the previous one, as you can tell. So not great there. Again, I won't pretend to know a whole lot about Emirates or transferring over there, but anytime you see cuts, it's obviously not great. Now the other cut I do think is even less of a big deal, but I would love to see if we have anyone out there like this or you know anyone. This one came from Frequent Miler, I believe. I'll put the chart up. They spent the time making the table. So this also starting July 27th. Thank you rewards will be reducing the direct transfer rates to several partners for cardholders of the Double Cash, Points Plus, or Rewards Plus cards who do not have a Prestige or Premier card as well. So if you just have a Double Cash, a Points Plus, or Rewards Plus, this is you. So the current values you can see up top, and then the new redemption points, again, starting July 27th, July 27th, there you go. That's what I meant to say, down below. So, we were talking about 1,000 thank you points to all three of these guys right now. Sending them to True Blue, you get you 800. Send them to Choice Privilege, you get 15. And sending them to Wyndham, you get 800 in return. Going forward, you're going to go down to 700 at JetBlue, 1,400 at Choice, and 700 for Wyndham. So not massive drops. JetBlue moves down 12.5%, according to Frequent Miler. Choice 6.7%, and Wyndham 12.5%. So not I don't think it's terrible, because I can't imagine anyone here who really cares about travel and knows what they're doing is only going to have a Double Cash or Rewards Plus and be sending out that many thank you points to some of these transfer partners. And of course, so perhaps this is a way for Citi to just try to either encourage you to go through the transfer portal that they revamped a while back, maybe a year or two ago, or of course to cross-sell the Strata Premier, because again, they don't have the Prestige available for application right now, so that would be my guess. Also, weirdly enough, they didn't put the custom cash on here as well, which I would think the custom cash would be one of their more popular cards. The Double Cash is probably their most popular card. Points Plus is an old card. I would imagine the custom cash, but it's not listed, which I find a little bit interesting. But again, I don't know that this is necessarily worth like a bunch of speculation on. I think it's probably just to maybe cut some costs and maybe cross-sell a card or two to get people to go if they were, have been using Citi cards but just haven't gone all the way into the Citi travel. That's my guess. Again, I don't think it's too big of a deal, so let's just keep it moving. Because if you don't like transfer points and you don't like miles and all that, but you have BILT rewards points and you went to school and you have loans, a lot of qualifiers there, but if that person is you, well then BILT Rewards now has another way for you to redeem out your BILT points. You can now pay them back at a 1 cent per point rate to a few student loan servicers. So I'll put it on screen for you here. You've got the big ones. I don't know how to pronounce all these guys. Part of the reason I lived at home for so long, so I didn't have to have student loans. But if you do, I understand. Sally Mae, it's a big one. Moila, I don't know, it's probably an acronym for something. Someone can tell me. We'll just keep up the trend of me mispronouncing things, and you guys just corrected me down below. Politely, said no one ever on the internet. Navient, that's a big one. Advantage, Neant, whatever. So there you go. It's linked for you over at profitablecontent.com. Overall, I think it's a pretty good option. I mean, there's nothing amazing about it, considering that you could have always taken one of your cashback credit cards and just redeem them and use it as a payment, what have you. But again, BILT in rent, most people pay either mortgage or rent. So if you have rent to pay and you don't like to travel, I do think this does open up another avenue of folks who, could get this card and use not only BILT card, but the BILT program as well. Obviously, the card a little bit better because it's going to avoid that 3% transaction fee, but again, you've got options. Why they just won't let you cash out the BILT points to begin with, I don't know. But again, I don't think this is going to make anyone totally pay off their student loans. I would hope not, because if you got that much in rent expense, you could probably just be done with them. But at the end of the year, if you're able to make an extra payment or what have you through doing this, and I think this is a good option overall. So I do like the addition. And overall, BILT has really been on a tear as of late. It's not everything they've done everyone's like their new payment setup. But hey, if you don't like this or you don't care about your student loans, you just want to travel, well, then they also have you covered with 2 new transfer partners. One of which is very surprising given how they've been dragged over the last 2-3 weeks, because they are adding Southwest first of all, and you will be able to transfer. They've got the full landing page, so you can transfer to Southwest Rapid Rewards at a 1-to-1 ratio. There's a whole press release. Don't think we need to go into it. Rest assured, both companies said very nice things about one another, and you get a 1-to-1 ratio, so everyone's happy. Pretty good there, again, considering Southwest has not been everyone's friend as of late. Now, in addition to that, Japan Airlines, they had a landing page, and you can see because the Doctor of Credit grabbed it, or Reddit grabbed it, and that's where I grabbed it. Everyone's basically just stealing from everyone on the internet. But then you click the link at the time of taping, the page does not load anymore. By the time you're watching, it might be up, so maybe they just went early with it. But either way, they're adding Japan Airlines as well. And I don't know too much about this, but overall, I think more options is better, and BILT keeps adding options. I did tell, a good friend of the channel, friend in life, that, it's like, hey, if you keep renting, if you decide to re-up your lease, we'll have to look at getting you the BILT Rewards card, because that, flies Southwest a lot, and that could be helpful. Points, again, you got to pay rent, you might as well get something for it, right? So overall, good options all around in the world of BILT. I do think, with the rent deal, with the not with the rent, but the servicing, the student loan deal, I'm interested to see how they start to look at tackling mortgages. We know they want to do it. That's something near and dear to me. So hopefully, gives them some time and they'll come up with something. But there you go. Now, news of the week: the ongoing saga of the Capital One Discover merger had some slight bumps along the way, but they have a new press release out, and the green light has been given across the board. So Capital One receives final regulatory approvals for acquisition of Discover. Capital One Corporation Discover today announced that the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System and the OCC have approved Capital One's proposed acquisition of Discover. This approval follows approval of the transaction by the Delaware State Bank Commissioner in December 2024, and shareholders of more than 99% of each company's shares voting in February. Here's your Funzy quote: "An exciting moment for Capital One and Discover. We understand the critical importance of a strong and competitive banking system to our customers and our economy, and we appreciate the thoughtful and diligent engagement of our regulators as they thoroughly reviewed this deal for the past 14 months." That seems like a shot, like a backhanded compliment to me. "I'm grateful for the thousands of associates across Capital One, thank you for doing your jobs." Great. Everyone said nice things about everyone. Everyone is happy. That sounds like a solid press release to me, with just missing happy people. So overall, not too bad. We kind of thought, not that we're some, savant here, but we kind of thought it would get improved. I don't think either bank is the globally systemic, whatever the list is of the GSIB list or whatever, the ones that just can't fail or globally impactful. I didn't think it was going to be that big of a deal. I know there was the ones that there was a week or two ago, now probably more so a month, that came out. I was like, hey, it was getting held up, but it worked out. I don't think this is that big of a deal overall, as far as oh my gosh, I'm like a monopoly or something. Oddly enough, it does make Capital One the largest issuer of credit cards by loan volumes. I don't think it means by amount of credit cards in circulation, but acquiring Discover, once it's all mushed together, They'll have the biggest credit card portfolio by loan amount, I believe. I looked, no one had actually made a new updated chart yet, so I couldn't find an updated chart. Maybe we'll revisit. And somewhat, I kind of find it a little bit surprising, but on the other hand, given Capital One, who they target, and it's really easy to recommend Capital One cards to anybody, especially just starting out or rebuilding or what have you, even on the upper end. And their business cards for a while are pretty, not terrible, I wouldn't say, but they're pretty popular. And then Discover approving just about anyone. I guess that kind of makes sense. I thought it was a little surprising, but overall, not too bad. So what does this mean? Well, I think they'll go through, now they've put the plan in place to actually combine the systems. I think they're going to leave the brands separately, is what they said when they originally started, but you still have to kind of put a plan in place to merge, pick like a legal day one where it's actually like fully in effect. I would imagine that. And then, the real thing is I would assume not this year, but I've always thought the move for Capital One was to get Discover for their payment network. One, because we could kind of see there was interest in the government to make it so credit cards, I forget the name of the law of the guys who were proposing it, but basically you couldn't just have one payment network. So it would have to be like a Visa and Discover, like a Visa and American Express. And the reason they made Discover probably so interesting is the law would only propose like Visa and MasterCards couldn't run on their own, but American Express could and Discover could. One, probably because market share. Number two, because that was, being a payment network, was also part of their core business. So, if you issue that many cards, could you flip them over to the Discover payment network? Probably not the Venture X. I know there are fans of the Venture card. I don't care for it, but maybe not so much the travel ones. I know we've talked about the no foreign transaction fees and the acceptance rates. Well, if you really want to do this, your Capital One and you're in control of it now, well, you can fix all of these things, even having, the Venture X, for example, being a Visa Infinite, those are payment network benefits. So you could add those as network benefits to Discover yourself if you wanted to. I think that's a longer ways out, but could I see them flipping like a Quicksilver over to it? Like, yeah, the Saver, maybe, because you could just keep the no foreign transaction fees if you wanted. And again, you could make the payment network support all those benefits, right? It's nothing really unique about it other than they get them through Visa, and instead of having to offer themselves. The main players. You could go directly to those insurance companies and providers and like, hey, I want to deal with my Discover payment network. Could definitely happen. As far as acceptance rates everywhere, well, you could work on that too if you wanted. Or you could do nothing, see if this bill gets passed, which I don't think it will. But you could do that, and then, hey, I'm also in the market to be a partner payment network on everyone else's credit cards that are not American Express. That'd be my guess. As far as new credit cards, new banking products, I don't know. Capital One could have made a 5% rotating category card anytime they wanted to, so I don't really know what the buzz is there. Again, I guess the level will end on this. The last big question is like, does Capital One impose its underwriting standards onto Discover and their subpar customer service as well? Discover has great customer service from my experience, calling in 2 or 3 times on the Discover Cash card. Capital One, not so much. They do the tri-merge credit pool, which no one's a fan of. I still don't think it's that big of a deal, but no one's really a fan of it. They're very restrictive. They tend to put you in buckets, and once you're in the bucket of the credit limit, you're kind of stuck there. So would they impose that, or would they just literally let it be? We don't know. That's, for me, is probably the big question, and then the payment network one as well. I don't see them coming out with a bunch of new products or anything like that, because I think both of them could have done that already. Capital One really hasn't done much since the Venture X. They need to refresh some of their own cards, like the Venture, before they start looking at adding new stuff, in my opinion. So there you go. Let me know down below what you hope will happen, what you want to see. Will you try to go grab a Discover card before this fully takes effect? I've got one more Discover card I can get. I may try to grab it just in case, but approval's a little bit hard for me. But anyways, guys, that has been the news. So of course, if you liked it, drop me a thumbs up down below. If you found it particularly interesting, consider subscribing to the channels. We're posting content just like this every single week. Of course, right back every Sunday with all the news you can use in the week that wasn't credit and finance. And of course, every single day over on ProfitContent.com, which is the channel's blog. Always linked down below for it. It has the latest news stories just like this. We got bank promotions from Capital One and Discover, I believe, so you might as well go get them while you can. And credit card offers. Nothing for Discover, but we do have some stuff from Capital One if you are interested, among others. Of course, that Chase Sapphire Preferred 100K offer while it's still good. if you haven't gotten tired of hearing that already. But anyways, guys, that'll do it for this one. As always, thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you very soon next week.